Welcome back, listeners, to Red Hunt, where I, Red, dive deep into the tangled web of relationships, bringing you the juiciest stories from the infamous relationship subreddit. So grab a seat, hold on to your hearts, and let's embark on this roller coaster ride together. CDA, if you enjoy these stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment sharing your own relationship experiences. Let's connect and unravel the mysteries of love. Am I the antagonist for living in a house share when I can afford not to? I am a 27-year-old female living in a shared house in an affordable city in England. I moved here temporarily during the pandemic but ended up liking it, so I stayed even after things returned to normal. Previously, I lived and worked in London. Currently, I live in a 3-bedroom house where I have my own bathroom and office. I share the house with 2 other women who are the same age as me. Since I occupy more space, I pay a higher rent. Although we are not best friends, the girls I live with are nice. We watch TV together and occasionally hang out outside the house, which is a pleasant arrangement in my opinion. Recently, one of my housemates accidentally opened a letter meant for my employer. The letter contained information about a pay raise and bonus that I was going to receive. I believe it was an honest mistake because the letter was in a regular white envelope and our names look similar at first glance. She claims that she only realized it wasn't hers after glancing over it, but I find that difficult to believe. The issue is that she now knows how much I earn. My salary is considered high by London standards, where my job is based, and even higher by Northern standards, where I live. She started behaving strangely towards me, then became passive-aggressive, and now she has become openly hostile. The situation reached its peak when I reminded her to pay me back for our shared takeaway via Monzo. In response, she sent a voice note in our WhatsApp group calling me a greedy southern cow, accusing me of being stingy even though I can easily afford to let it go and allow her to cover the next one. However, we have never done that before, and I see no reason why we should start now, considering the circumstances. The third roommate initially remained silent, but I assume they spoke about me behind my back. They called for a meeting and claimed that I am basically rich, and that it's unfair for me to ask our other roommate to repay me £20 when I can afford to let it go. The situation escalated, with them calling me a Tory, accusing me of mocking them by pretending to be like them, and criticizing me for living in a shared house when I can afford to live alone. They argued that, considering the state of the economy, it's only fair for me to pay more because I can afford it. I firmly refused their demands. I pointed out that it's not my fault they chose lower-paying careers, teaching and nursing, and highlighted that I already pay significantly higher rent than everyone else, on top of the fact that our house is not exactly cheap to begin with. I refuse to be punished for my success while they are not doing as well. As a result, I feel like they have isolated themselves, but I truly believe that I am not in the wrong. However, I am open to being corrected if that is the case. Hey, it sounds like you're in a tough situation with your housemates. It's definitely not cool that they invaded your privacy by opening your letter, and their behavior towards you after finding out about your pay rise and bonus is definitely uncalled for. It seems like they're projecting their own frustrations onto you, but that doesn't give them the right to treat you poorly or demand that you pay more just because you can afford it. Stick to your guns and stand up for yourself. You're not in the wrong here. Am I the antagonist for skipping out on a commitment I made? I am a 34-year-old female middle school teacher who specializes in teaching history to 7th and 8th graders. One of my students happens to be my niece, who is currently in 8th grade. Last Tuesday, my niece was participating in the volleyball unit during gym class. The teams were randomly assigned by the teachers for the tournaments. One of the kids on my niece's team is a transgender boy. I have this student in my class and he is a well-behaved and kind individual. I also teach most of his friends, who are all wonderful boys. It's remarkable to see how protective they are of their friend, always willing to defend him. This particular boy is quite competitive during PE and became frustrated with my niece when she wasn't putting in much effort and seemed more interested in chatting with a friend. He approached the gym teacher and reported that my niece and another girl were not fully participating in the game due to unrelated conversations. The teacher instructed them to participate more, but they failed to comply. When the boy approached the teacher again, he punished the girls with lunch detention. After the class ended and everyone was getting ready in the locker rooms, my niece approached the boy and engaged in an argument with him, using a transphobic slur against him. The boy promptly informed his friends about the incident during lunch, and they decided together to report it to the assistant principal, urging him to join as well. As a consequence of her bullying behavior, my niece received a week of in-school suspension. While my niece has previously faced detention or in-school suspension, this is the lengthiest punishment she has received. On Wednesday, I checked my teacher email and discovered that my niece had emailed me 3 times, pleading for assistance in getting out of in-school suspension. That evening, I called my sister to ask her to inform my niece to stop emailing me. However, my sister insisted that I try to intervene and get my niece out of in-school suspension because she is family. I firmly declined, explaining that I believed they were violating my professional boundaries. My sister accused me of being a bad sister and aunt. Following this argument, I announced to my sister that I would not be able to babysit her younger children, aged 11, 8, and 3, on Saturday, as originally agreed. She wanted me to babysit so she could take my niece to an arts and crafts fair. We continued arguing, and eventually, I provided her with a contact referral for another teenager, a responsible 14-year-old boy who babysits my own children. Although my sister ended up hiring the recommended babysitter, she expressed anger because she now had to pay him instead of having me babysit for free. She accused me of setting a bad example by not keeping commitments and claimed that I was doing a disservice to both sets of children. I reiterated that all I wanted was an apology for my niece's behavior at school, but my sister adamantly refused to offer one. So, am I the asshole? Your sister is the one who is out of line here. You have every right to maintain professional boundaries and not intervene on behalf of your niece, especially considering her offensive behavior. It's not your responsibility to babysit her kids either, and your sister is being unreasonable by expecting you to do so for free. Am I the antagonist for not letting my friend join a plan that he had previously rejected? I, a 22-year-old male, made a plan to attend a concert in my city. It would be my first concert experience, and I was excited because it was a good one and I had enough money to buy tickets. I asked my friends if they wanted to join me, as this was something I'd always wanted to do. However, all of them declined for various reasons, some of which seemed silly and made me think they just didn't want to go to a concert in general. So, I reached out to another group of friends who aren't my main group, but whom I hang out with quite a bit. Most of them agreed to go since they hadn't been to a concert before either. We all decided to go together. However, one person from that second group was also making excuses, similar to my other friends. He gave me stupid reasons that made it seem like he just didn't want to come. By this point, I was pretty annoyed with all these guys making lame excuses instead of just telling me they didn't want to come. So I said forget it and booked the tickets with the friends who had said yes. A few days later, both my primary group and the guy from the second group started telling me they didn't realize I was actually going and asked why I hadn't told them properly. They wanted to come now. To clarify, I had asked these guys multiple times, but they either ignored me or gave me dumb excuses. At this point, most of the concert tickets were already booked, and it would be difficult to get tickets together. The guy from the second group asked me to contact the site and check if there were any available seats in the same section we had already booked. I was already reluctant because this guy had been annoying me with his ignorance about our plan. However, I decided to contact the site via email. They replied saying that there was only one spot left. Now, I had a choice: tell my friend about the availability and get him on board, or just not inform him at all. Normally, I wouldn't hesitate to tell him, but that day I chose not to. I felt that these were the consequences of his own actions, and I shouldn't have to go out of my way to help him when he had been acting inconsiderate. Additionally, if I did help him get the ticket, my other friend from the primary group might question why I didn't invite him first, considering our closer relationship, and instead invited the guy from the second group. So, I decided not to inform either of them and simply did nothing, ensuring that neither of them would come. I would just go with the people who had initially responded positively to the plan. Now I'm wondering if I am being a jerk for making this choice. It's frustrating when your friends constantly make excuses and show disinterest in something you're excited about. You tried reaching out multiple times, but they either ignored you or gave lame reasons. You have every right to prioritize those who actually showed enthusiasm and commitment from the start. I think my mom is jealous of me. I do not believe that I live an extraordinary life. However, considering the challenging childhood I had with abusive parents, I feel that I have turned out pretty well. I am currently a 20-year-old female preem student at the top university in the country. I balance full-time schooling with a casual part-time job, volunteering on-campus extracurriculars, and conducting research in a lab. Upon reflecting on the situation, most students at my university are involved in similar activities. Consequently, I am constantly stressed, depressed, and struggle to maintain a social life due to the competitive environment. Despite this, I always strive to do my best. My mom got engaged at 19 and married at 20, then had me at 21. She had initially pursued a psychology degree, which I found impressive, but she cut her studies short as she wanted to marry a man who would financially support her, i.e., my dad. I have great respect for her decision. However, after migrating to the West, she ended up needing to work anyway and now has a monotonous white-collar job. I must mention that my mom is stunning. Both men and women openly tell her this. At one point, she had the physique of a Victoria's Secret model. She cooks for our family, so I seldom eat out, and she works full-time. In other words, she is like a superwoman. However, when it comes to being a mother by providing encouragement and love, she has never fulfilled that role for me. She brings in money and cooks, which I am extremely grateful for as I always have a roof over my head. However, as a person, she is horrible to me. Towards strangers, she appears wonderful, but to me, honestly, my babysitter from my childhood was more of a mother figure. To sum up my childhood, she began bullying me about my weight at the age of 6, although I suspect it took her own eating disorder to notice. She consistently bullied me about my appearance, placing far more stress on it than on my academic performance. If I received a gift, such as a dress or sweater that was a size too big, she would simply take it instead of getting it altered. She would buy me shirts only to take them and say, "Never mind, they look better on me." During middle school, I had a friend who struggled with anorexia, and my mom constantly compared me to her, saying, "Why can't you be pretty like her?" She did not want people to know that her daughter was in a manly field like engineering, and pushed me towards a medical career path, regardless of the fact that medical school admissions in Canada are notoriously difficult. Now, looking at my current life with my mom, I attend the most academically rigorous preem school in the country, and my grades typically range from the low 80s to low 90s. This semester, I only achieved 80s, and she questioned me about my horrible grades. My mom does not even know what courses I am taking or how the grading scale operates at my university. I genuinely do not comprehend why she is so concerned about the final outcome rather than being invested in the process. The most bothersome aspect affecting my mental health is this. My mom equates all the activities I engage in for medical school, as mentioned earlier, school, work, etc., as my social time. I was fortunate to secure a highly sought-after job on campus, and when I inform my mom that I will not be home immediately after class due to work, she rolls her eyes. She obsessively insists that I come home right after my classes end. Given my involvement in extracurriculars, lab meetings, and work shifts, I spend a lot of time on campus. However, I do not even study there. I have created a fantastic study environment in my own room. Nevertheless, my mom rolls her eyes when I need to meet with the professor who runs my lab, or when I have to go to work. She makes comments about me being out too much. Then, when I mention actual social plans, which occur very rarely due to time constraints, she says, "Why? You've already had enough socializing. I am 20 years old and am expected to buy my own car soon." However, my mom tells me that I am not allowed to go visit a cute little cafe with my friends after my classes. I remember one instance when there was a highly anticipated themed pub night on campus. She knew about it well in advance, and I used work as an excuse to attend, to film some shots of the event. Almost everyone I knew was planning to go, and I had gotten all dressed up. However, my mom looked me up and down and said, "You know what? Aren't you tired? Don't go." Her intention was not to show concern for my fatigue as a hard-working student. She simply did not want me to go. Of course, I went anyway, but recently I have started to think that maybe she was just jealous. She got married too young. Even her own parents, my grandparents, think she should have continued her education regardless of her marriage. Lately, I have begun to suspect that she says these things out of spite and jealousy because she missed out on opportunities by marrying my dad. It's understandable that her behavior is affecting your mental health. It's great that you're trying to balance everything and chase your dreams, but it's important to prioritize your well-being and happiness too. Don't let her hold you back from enjoying your social life or pursuing opportunities outside of school. My BF went through my phone while I was asleep and saw some texts to my sister. This is not the first time he went through my phone. We have been dating for 7 years, and 3 years ago we had an argument because he snooped and found nothing, but was obsessive still, so he confessed. He has been acting weird for a week and I felt something was off. Later he confessed. He snooped and saw some texts about a harmless crush I had on my close guy friend, which I talked about to my sister, but was extra careful when talking to him. Even did not use emojis texting him because it could hurt my boyfriend. All because I respected our relationship and I still loved him, and did not prefer to act on attraction that one still can have while in a relationship, which my boyfriend says he does not experience such thing, and he loves me only. We had discussions about it before, where I am more of an open person about relationships, but he is not, so I respect that and do not act on anything. He read all my messages, even commented on my sister's private life, calling her a bitch. Now I need to fill you in. When I sent those texts, we were also physically distant. I had just moved to a new country where he could not visit me for 6 months or so, because he did not take the responsibility to apply for renewal for his visa on time. I had many challenges and never felt the emotional support in the recent years, and he actually never wanted to live in the country that I live for 3 years. So there is more background, but the problem is that he went through my phone behind my back and now says he believes he cannot continue our relationship. I feel like he was sabotaging our relationship all the time, and now we are visiting his hometown and he wants to stay here. He unconsciously was looking for a reason to break up to make him feel less guilty about it. I felt very violated and asked to see his phone. He would not give it to me because he talked about our breakup with his sister. How do I explain to him that he is the one problematic here? Am I really guilty for having thoughts about someone else but not acting on it? Can you help me see it clearly? That really sucks that he went through your phone without your permission again. It sounds like you've been really respectful of your relationship by not acting on any attraction you may have had. It seems like he's the one with the problem here. You should definitely talk to him and make him understand how violated you feel. Karen doesn't want to follow enrollment procedure. Many years ago, I worked in customer service for a company that managed Medicare Part D drug plans. It was the annual enrollment period, which was always quite hectic. In addition to our normal customer care duties of answering questions and solving problems, we also had to enroll people into our plans. This process involved asking and answering questions, providing necessary information, and explaining our and the customer's responsibilities, as well as important information that the customer needed to verbally agree to. During this busy period, I encountered a woman who was angry about having to go through the enrollment process and frustrated with how much time it was taking. I reassured her that I was trying to expedite the process as much as possible. Eventually, we reached the end of the process, and I informed her that I needed to read the terms of service to her and receive her verbal confirmation. She immediately started protesting, claiming that she didn't have time to listen to it. I told her that it was a legal requirement for me to read it to her, but she insisted on skipping it and just signing up. I explained once again that reading the agreement and obtaining her acknowledgement were necessary steps to complete the sign-up process. Despite her resistance, I managed to convince her to agree, and I proceeded with the enrollment. At that moment, I couldn't help but think that if she had allowed me to read the agreement without arguing, we could have finished much sooner. However, I refrained from expressing this frustration. Instead, I reiterated that I needed to read the agreement and receive her verbal agreement. I warned her that if she refused, I wouldn't be able to sign her up for Medicare Part D, she wouldn't have a Part D plan, she wouldn't be able to enroll until the next enrollment period, and she would face a fine for not having a plan that year. Disregarding my words, she simply told me to sign her up and abruptly hung up the call. Naturally, I did not proceed with her enrollment and documented the entire incident in the call log. I noted that I had explained several times the need to review the agreement and obtain her consent, as well as the penalties she would face if she declined. It was clear that she refused, and as a result, I did not sign her up. Several weeks into the new year, a coworker situated near me received an angry call from the same woman. She was furious because when she tried to fill a prescription, the pharmacy informed her that they couldn't process her insurance since she didn't have a Part drug plan. My coworker asked for her name, which happened to be the same woman whom I didn't enroll. After confirmation, my coworker regretfully informed her that she did not have a plan with us. To make matters worse for the caller, we couldn't enroll her because she had missed the enrollment period. It's easy to imagine how much smoother things would have gone if that woman had simply allowed me to do my job and read the service agreement while she agreed to it. It's frustrating when customers refuse to follow the necessary steps and then expect things to magically work out. If she had just listened to you and agreed to the terms, she wouldn't have ended up without a Part D drug plan. Some people really need to learn to cooperate and save themselves from unnecessary headaches. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.